And to counteract that climate of fear, a couple of guys in their early 20s, two men armed with rifles, did a walk through Portland in order to educate the people. And it's kind of interesting, these two young guys went around and they slung a couple of rifles over their backs, and they walked around Portland, Oregon, and the calls to 9/11 started coming in fast and furious to the police. And when they went out there, they found these two concealed carry permits, carrying their rifles openly on their backs, and they told the officers they were just trying to educate people about exercising their gun rights. Now, what one of the guys said was what they really wanted people to do was to look at the person, to determine if the person was acting aggressively. And that's the whole point, isn't it? I mean, it's not the guns. The guns are not going to fire themselves, as Mike Adams cleverly pointed out in a very funny piece where he threw the gun on the ground and ordered it to shoot, ordered it to kill. It didn't do anything. Their point, and they made it very well, was that we've gotten to the situation where people are just afraid of the appearance of guns. I mean, they call them assault rifles. You know, that's a very vague term. It doesn't really mean anything except that it's a rifle that looks scary. And even the appearance of a rifle is scary. So what he's saying is, look at the person, see if they're acting aggressive before you dial 911. Well, we had a couple of our own guys, Jakari Jackson and David Ortiz, walk around Austin. They weren't carrying guns, they were carrying cameras, and they wanted to see what people thought about the Second Amendment. Here's that report.
I'm here to not only talk about voting no on some of the legislation that is loosening up registration and re-registration of gun owners, but more importantly, to ban all assault weapons.
An assault weapon is a weapon full automatic. It is allowed only the military and the police.
It's only for the military and police and for a special trust where you can buy a class-free weapon.
I don't think that taking away a person's right to bear arms is the answer, but I do believe that there should be restrictions. I have a clean record, so technically I could go to a gun show and purchase as many guns as I want to, have them in my house. I have a 4-year-old daughter. Why should I have an assault rifle?
A gun show, a shooting range. You never see mass shootings there. There's all kinds of ammo and guns and people walking all around them.
Yeah, I don't support the assault weapon ban. What I do believe is a good alternative would be, like my colleague here mentioned, is stronger restrictions when it comes to evaluating the people's mental health, psychiatrist exam or something.
Now, what about in China, where a gentleman, I believe it was around the same time, slashed 20 children with a knife? What do you say to people who may bring that up?
Well, I can tell you that I'm a citizen of America, and in America we're a civilized people, and as civilized people we need to set our own rules in place to govern our country.
What did you say to people who say, well, maybe the Sandy Hook guy had a gun, but this guy had a knife?
A person with a knife is a lot easier to subdue.
What do you think about gun-free zones at schools?
Oh, free massacre zone.
Say the principal had a gun in her office. Would she have had time to even pull it out, take off the safety, and use it? And to that extent, so I don't think that's a good argument.
How long did they have to wait till someone got there to stop this guy? Right. Because no one in this quote-unquote safe school zone or no gun zone was there to defend the children.
Obama's kids, they go to a school with 11 guards.
Now, besides assault weapons, are you for any other type of legislation, such as banning high-capacity magazines or certain types of ammunition, anything like that?
Yes, but I think the core of it is to get rid of the weapons.
People say they don't want you to have more than 10 rounds in your magazine.
You know, it's just another incremental step. I mean, okay, is it 10 rounds a day? Is it 5 rounds next week?
One of the alternatives I really would push for would be raising the price on bullets. Raising the price on bullets, raising the taxes on bullets.
Okay, you realize that a deer rifle or an AR-15 are basically the same thing, just one looks spookier than the other?
Well, it should be a weapon that shoots one bullet at a time.
The federal government recently just purchased $1.6 billion.
I believe it was in the past calendar year.
Well, if it's the federal government purchasing it, then it's probably going to go to our law enforcement. And I think that's something that our law enforcement people need.
Not too long ago, the Empire State Building, where the police opened fire on one guy and hit 8 or 9 other people who were not their intended target. So, what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, I have no comment on that.
Don't you want to defend yourself against tyranny?
Yes,
Somebody
sir,
that wants you put down like this, wants to make you a slave, Isn't that the freedom of the Second Amendment?
Now, as far as the Second Amendment, it has the right to a well-regulated militia. Do you think a well-regulated militia could use something like assault weapons?
And the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms.
And it also has for a well-regulated militia, that's also in there as well, miss.
Well, it's our military is our militia, not our common everyday citizens.
Now, sir, there are people out there that say, why do you need a semi-automatic rifle such as the one allegedly used in the Sandy Hook shooting?
Well, just once again, it's not about my need. It's about my right.
Miss, if I can ask you a question talking about the blood of children on our hands, the Obama administration, and it went back to Bush as well, had something called Operation Fast and Furious where they gave fully automatic weapons to Mexican drug cartels. Now, they said it was a sting operation, but it was used to kill a Border Patrol agent, policemen, as well as other children. Do you think anybody should be held accountable for that?
Okay, I'm not going to comment on that.
When seconds count, police are only minutes away, and I carry a 1911 because the policeman's too heavy.
Well, as you can see, there's a lot of different opinions about the Second Amendment, about the right to keep and bear arms. And it reminds us that this debate is something that we all need to take part in. It's not something, if we just leave this to the mainstream media, we're going to lose this. We all have to get involved. We all have to be informed, and we have to inform those people that we come in contact with, that are in our family, our circle of friends. That leads us to one of our quotes today from John Adams. He said, "I always consider the settlement of America with reverence and wonder as the opening of a grand scene and a design in providence for the illumination of the ignorant and the emancipation of the slavish part of mankind all over the earth." That, folks, is what we're fighting for when we fight for our liberties.
Christy Hightower here with a quick Planet InfoWars update. Good to see you all, Patriots, again. You're still talking on the site and we're still listening. And I just wanted to give you a quick little intro, I guess. There's a letter to peers. Obviously, as you've all known, it's all across the media. Everyone's talking about Alex's v. Pierce. Somebody wrote a letter to peers, and it goes something like, "I was glad to see you maintain the famous Brit civility. That was refreshing." Now, before everybody overreacts, he goes on to say, "Fact remains, the dictatorship that is being imposed is by no means civil. When countries are taken over by dictators, good people die." So go and finish reading that. I found it really interesting because when I first started reading it, that first sentence kind of made me mad. I think Piers is, you know, British. He ran away from some bad stuff, so he really shouldn't even be here, in my opinion. But then he goes on to just explain, like, "Hey, Piers, you're taking in a one side, so go and read it. Leave your comments below, and I'll look forward to reading those." And the next two things I just wanted to give you an update about. We have two different missions. Now, all the groups on the site, I'm sure, have their own missions, but we have one for the dating freedom lovers with February 14th coming up. Obviously, we want to make sure you guys find love, or maybe have the option at least. So these two people, Eric and Samantha, are doing really well. I've been in touch with them. And what we're going to start doing is, if you send us your picture and a quick little bio, now obviously nothing too vulgar, you know, like, come on, keep it decent, but if you send us your picture and a little bio, we're going to feature you in that top section where you just saw their picture. And if we get enough of them, we'll trade them out like every day or even every hour if we have that many. So just send them on in, and we'll post those up. That's one mission. You can find that in the Dating Freedom Lovers group. Patriots, y'all are talking, and again, we're listening. Thank you for all you're doing.